Possession is arguably one of the most disturbing, bizarre, and unsettling films ever made. A one-of-a-kind experience that left many viewers deeply unsettled. But behind the scenes, the reality was even more disturbing. Hit that like button and subscribe now as we delve into explicit scenes featuring grotesque creatures, a director who seemed to infect the entire cast and crew with his own darkness, and an actress who nearly lost her life to portray such a disturbed character. To truly understand the haunting depths of this film, we need to know its director, the equally troubled Andrzej Żuławski. Born in Poland, he grew up under the oppressive thumb of a communist regime. Back then, censorship controlled every aspect of culture, from the movies to the books. Faced with such limitations, a young Żuławski escaped to Paris to study film at the prestigious Institut des Hautes Études Cinématographiques. He had a certain faith that things would improve in his country, so he returned in the early 1970s to create his debut feature, The Third Part, a psychological thriller about the Nazi occupation of Poland. This first film brought him trouble with the communist regime, but it also earned enough international awards to propel his next project. The Devil portrays the Prussian invasion of 1793, weaving in themes of conspiracy and betrayal. This time, the challenges were even greater. The film was banned outright before its release. And yet, it seems the Polish communist regime was generous with film subsidies, because despite having 2 films prohibited, Żuławski stayed on and took a shot at a third, on the Silver Globe. This sci-fi epic was never finished. The production was shut down abruptly when the entire crew was arrested by the Ministry of Culture and the Secretary of State. The sets and costumes were destroyed. The director and technicians managed to salvage a few materials, but the film remained hidden from the public eye for many years. To make matters worse, Żuławski's personal life was falling apart. Shortly after the government shut down his third film, his wife filed for divorce and was granted custody of their only child. At the bottom of a deep depression, many might seek solace in creating something dark, but only Żuławski could conjure up something as unsettling as possession. He envisioned a tale of a marriage unraveling, a premise all too familiar to him personally. The difference was that he would use it as a vehicle to explore the darkest corners of a broken heart, a void that would allow him to plunge into the most unpredictable, even surreal horrors. Żuławski had written a treatment, but he needed someone to collaborate with. A screenwriter friend suggested Frederic Tuten, an American critic who also wrote fiction. Żuławski connected with some friends in New York and made the trip over with his project in hand. Tuten read the treatment and immediately recognized its potential. He was eager to be part of it. Żuławski and Tuten started writing the screenplay in New York, but eventually relocated to Paris. The director had a very specific vision for each scene, even while battling depression. One of his most daring choices was to shift the setting from Warsaw to Detroit, home to a large Polish population. Żuławski's professionalism sped up their collaboration with Tuten, but it also led to some tension. One would write, and the other would offer input, always trying to be respectful. Occasionally, though, they'd clash. After a long, exhausting day, Żuławski called Tuten an idiot, but he quickly retracted the insult. Tuten didn't take it to heart. In fact, he welcomed the feedback as a way to refine the script. And that's how they arrived at a screenplay titled Possession. Żuławski and Tuten's story focuses on Anna, a housewife, and Mark, a spy. When he returns from a covert operation, she wants a divorce. They have a son named Bob who stays with his father. Their fights escalate into increasingly violent and disturbing confrontations, including self-harm. But Anna becomes involved in bizarre affairs. And bizarre is an understatement. One of her lovers is Heinrich, a creepy man who gives you the chills. But he's nothing compared to her other lover, a tentacled creature whose origins are shrouded in mystery. Yeah. This is the kind of film only European cinema could produce. Żuławski initially landed a producer for the project. But before they could get the ball rolling, the director found out that the producer was pocketing the film's money to fund his lavish lifestyle in New York. The director didn't bother to confront the producer, who had already cut and run. As a result, Possession was left without a solid backer and started racking up bills. Żuławski's depression was deepening, but his passion for the film kept him going. In a last-ditch effort, he pitched the film to a Paramount Pictures producer, describing it as a story about a woman who has an affair with an octopus. Of course, the producer was not interested. Other studios turned him down as well. The situation was looking bleak. But then a lifeline came from Europe, specifically from Marie-Laure Rare, a rising French producer. She told the director she knew about the film's financial struggles, but was captivated by the project and ready to start over. She secured funding from France and Germany. In fact, she suggested shifting the setting to West Berlin, right by the wall. This would intensify the film's themes of division, paranoia, and danger. With a new, more supportive producer, Żuławski could start looking for actors again. Even with European funding, the film would be in English, so they needed actors who spoke the language fluently. Żuławski wanted Isabelle Adjani for the role of Anna. At just 20, she had been nominated for an Oscar for François Truffaut's The Story of Adele H. Adjani continued to impress audiences and critics with her talent, working with acclaimed directors like Werner Herzog and Roman Polanski. Żuławski wanted to approach Adjani personally, but she was such a big star it was hard to get to her. He had to send the script to her agency first, and they turned it down flat. Not wanting to waste any time, the director turned his attention to his second choice, Judy Davis, an Australian actress who had impressed him in My Brilliant Career. He sent her the script but didn't hear back. In the meantime, the director noticed another actor from My Brilliant Career, Sam Neill. He thought Neill would be great as Mark. The actor met with Żuławski and was excited by his fresh take on the script. He signed on right away, but the question of who was going to play Anna remained up in the air. Days turned into weeks, and Davis still hadn't gotten back to him. Meanwhile, Adjani had finally read the script. She was on the fence about doing the film, but cinematographer Bruno Neuten, who was also joining the project, convinced her. Żuławski was finally starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. The rest of the cast was rounded out with German actors, but there was still one crucial piece missing: Anna's tentacled lover. To design such a terrifying creature, they needed a master of special effects. They considered the Swiss artist H.R. Giger, who had recently won an Oscar for his designs in Alien. In another video, we've already discussed Giger's significance in Alien, but since he wasn't available for Possession, the team turned to another award-winning professional from that same film, the Italian Carlo Rambaldi. Rambaldi was a seasoned pro who had worked on both European and Hollywood films. He was up for the challenge, even though he wouldn't be making his usual rate. As soon as they started working, Żuławski pushed Rambaldi to create countless sketches until they nailed down the 4 stages he had envisioned for the creature. Rambaldi stayed calm and enthusiastic throughout the process, and soon he came up with a design that blew Żuławski away. With all the pieces in place, production on Possession kicked off on July 7, 1980, in West Berlin. The atmosphere was pretty rough, being so close to the wall, but at the same time, it gave the team a chance to weave a political element into the story without making it feel too preachy. Żuławski was laser-focused on the film. With a budget of $2 million and just 12 weeks to shoot, every second counted. Having worked on low-budget films in Poland, he knew firsthand how expensive film stock was, and that they had to get it right in one take. So, he rehearsed with the actors relentlessly until he got the performances he wanted. Raw, intense emotions, pushing the boundaries of realism. To get what he wanted, the director was willing to go to extreme lengths. He would hurl insults and even scream at the actors to get a more visceral performance. Sam Neill was a big fan of Żuławski's and was thrilled to be part of such an ambitious project. But things took a turn when the director asked Neill to slap Adjani. Neill refused, saying he couldn't do it because he'd never hit anyone in his life. This upset Żuławski. Adjani then asked Neill to hit her so they could move on to the next scene. He hesitated but eventually gave in, not wanting to cause any more trouble. He slapped her, later admitting it was the most uncomfortable thing he'd ever had to do on set. Adjani could be collaborative with everyone on set, but inside, she was teetering on the edge of a mental breakdown. Portraying Anna was the most demanding role she had ever taken on. Żuławski was pulling her deeper into his world of darkness and demons. She realized just how far when it came time to film the sequence that would become the film's most iconic. Walking through a subway tunnel, Anna suffers convulsions, writhing against the walls and the floor, ultimately oozing blood and other fluids. A spontaneous miscarriage, depicted like a trance steeped in dark magic. Żuławski's direction was concise. I want you to make love to the air. Adjani delivered exactly that feeling in just 2 takes, filmed during a cold, early morning shoot. She was left utterly drained, but being young, she managed to endure it. For this scene, as with others, she avoided watching the daily rushes. She preferred to see the completed film instead. As we'll see, this approach would later prove to be a problem. Żuławski knew how to manage his actors, but the monstrous lover gave him a real headache. Rambaldi arrived in Berlin with pink latex pieces he'd made, but they needed electronic parts to bring them to life. With no money left in the budget, Żuławski had to get creative to make the creature look convincing on camera. The creature scenes ran way over schedule, and the director had to push the shoot 3 days beyond the planned wrap date, which really put him in a foul mood. But he pulled himself together and rallied the team to finish the film. After a tough and nerve-wracking shoot, Żuławski dove into post-production. Meanwhile, the studio was busy putting together a marketing campaign. Around this time, the director met Barbara Baranowska, an actress and illustrator who created movie posters. She was the one who designed the poster that would go on to become iconic. Thanks to his reputation in Europe, Żuławski secured a spot for Possession in the official competition at the Cannes Film Festival. It premiered there on May 25, 1981. Critics were left scratching their heads, but they all agreed it was mesmerizing. Adjani's performance in particular was outstanding, earning her the Best Actress award. But the night of the awards ceremony turned out to be almost as horrifying as the film itself. Adjani sat down to watch Possession for the first time and realized it was even more intense than she had imagined. As she left the theater, she called it psychological pornography, and in a state of shock, locked herself in a bathroom and tried to harm herself with a razor blade. Luckily, the blade was so dull it could barely nick the skin. She didn't seriously injure herself, but she scared her loved ones even more than she had with her performance in the subway scene. As Adjani recovered, Possession hit French theaters on May 27, 1981. Unfortunately, it only managed to gross a little over $1 million, falling short of breaking even. Critics gave it a mixed reception, though they praised the performances and Żuławski's bold ideas. The film fared even worse internationally. For its US release, it was severely cut. In the UK, it was banned from theaters altogether and released straight to VHS, becoming one of the infamous video nasties targeted by the Thatcher government's censorship campaign. Possession seemed destined for obscurity, but a dedicated fan base discovered and championed the film. Home video releases and screenings at film clubs turned it into a cult favorite. The film's following grew, even among viewers who didn't grasp every nuance of the plot. They simply appreciated its originality. Time was good to the people who made the film. Żuławski went on to make more important films. He even completed and released On the Silver Globe in 1988. Personally, he healed and found love again, though he had other relationships later in life. By the time he passed away in 2016, he was widely considered a cinematic genius. The stars of Possession went on to successful careers, but they never quite shook the experience of filming it. Sam Neill remarked that such a film couldn't be made today. Isabelle Adjani shared that she could only have done it in her youth, as the film embodied everything her subconscious had been grappling with for years. The creature has also endured. Its origins are a mystery that continues to fuel countless discussions and theories. Possession was born from the twisted mind of a fearless filmmaker. It pushed its cast and crew to the brink, a testament to their dedication to their craft. Despite its initial box office disappointment, it has solidified its place as one of cinema's most unique and mind-bending masterpieces. New ideas often face resistance in Hollywood, but when they break through, they can reshape popular culture. Beetlejuice is a prime example. This horror comedy